Mr. Trump, what's left in your life? You're 33 years old, you're worth all this money. You say you didn't say that you want to be worth $1 billion.
No, I really don't. I just want to keep busy and keep active and be interested in what I do, and that's all there is to life as far as I'm concerned. I really am not looking to make tremendous amounts of money. I'm looking to enjoy my life, and if that happens to go with it, that's fabulous.
Give me one final bottom line. In 5 years, the price of a hotel room in New York City will go for?
It could be $1,000 a night.
Start saving your money, folks, just one night.
Do you think in the 1980s that anyone can grow up to become a millionaire? Is that a reality?
Well, I think nowadays, Rona, I think it's more and more of a reality. With the lack of incentives that are being given to so many people, many more people have a tendency maybe to give up. And I think the people that don't, I think they're actually finding the ways, or maybe the paths are a little bit smoother than they were 5 and 10 and 15 years ago. It's a sad commentary, but nevertheless, it's possibly easier now than it was 10 years ago.
You think it is easier to become a millionaire?
I really do. I think many people have lost incentives. I think that, you know, with what's happening with even the country as a whole, it's a sad situation, and people sort of become a little depressed, and their own depression and the country's depression leads to that lack of incentive.
Tell me about the early days of Donald Trump. I
Well,
mean, were you born into wealth? I mean, was your father, I know your father was successful, but when you came along, was he already successful?
Oh yes, my father was very successful, and my father built homes and apartment houses in various sections and did very well. And I was brought up in the construction business, so to speak, and I enjoyed it from day one. I went to the good colleges, and I went through all of the normal process.
I guess what I want to know, because I think lots of people out there might want to know, what was your life like? I mean, did you live in a house? Did you live in an apartment? Did you have brothers and sisters? I think you're one of 5.
That's correct. That's correct.
I mean, what kind of a family life do you have? I mean, did you go outside and play ball, or did you have what we call a normal life, a normal upbringing, or were you constantly taught from day one, Donald, you must be a success and gear your head this way and travel down that road and never move to the left and never move to the right?
Well, Rona, I think I was probably brought up in a very normal fashion. We did have a house. I do have brothers and sisters. I have wonderful parents, wonderful family, really very wonderful family. I think we're a very highly motivated family. But again, I would never use the word ambition. And because to me, ambition's a bad word. It's not ambitious. You know, when I see people saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm so ambitious, and it really sickens me to listen to them talking. I think it's just something that we were motivated and properly motivated. And I think we're motivated for the right things. We were also motivated toward family and toward good things. But I like to think that maybe the ideas that I've had have, you know, created what we've created over the past 5 or 6 years. Ideas that maybe at the time people didn't believe in. A lot of people didn't believe in them. We built a hotel at a location and at a time in New York City's history when people were saying, oh, forget about it, it just cannot happen, it can't work, etc. Now the hotel is open, and I guess it's known as one of the greatest successes in real estate in the United States.
That's the Grand Hyatt.
That's the Grand Hyatt, which is built right next to Grand Central Terminal.
Amid a lot of fanfare, the Grand Hyatt held its grand opening today. The mayor and the governor of New York were among those on hand for the ribbon cutting.
Hyatt Regency is now an architectural gem for all the world to see.
Hyatt is a fantastic outfit, and all of this is going to combine to make probably the most successful hotel, one of them in the country, we feel. We tried to convince the city to build a convention center when they had fought for 12 years to build a center on a different site over the Hudson River, which was unbuildable. You couldn't build it, it would cost too much, and we came up with a different location, and we were successful in convincing them, and now they're building a $375 million convention center at a site that we wanted them to build it at. But at the time, people said the city will never have a convention center, the city's got its difficulties. Today, New York is the hottest city in the world, I would say. I don't think there's, and we are in other cities, but I don't think there's a city in the world that is so viable today as New York. All of the Europeans are looking to come to New York. Many, as a matter of fact, and I don't like to say it because I know you're from California, but many of my friends from California are now looking to come back to New York. For some reason, it's a psychology. It's a great change and a great shift in the mind from what it was 5 years ago. But I made a lot of transactions and deals 5 years ago having to do with New York and hoping that New York would come back, and it's come back, frankly, much stronger than I thought it would be possible.
Tell me about that dream. Tell me, how does that dream come about? Do you wake up one day and you say, I want 30th Street on the west side. I want 42nd Street on the east side. I want the Tiffany location, 57th Street and 5th Avenue. What happens, Donald? Tell me about that process.
Well, it's a process, and it's something that you maybe have an instinct for. The finest piece of real estate, considered to be the finest piece of real estate in the world, is at the corner of 5th Avenue and 57th Street. That's the Tiffany corner of the world. And you can go to California, you can go to Des Moines, Iowa, you can go anywhere and you can say, what's the Tiffany location? It's become a phrase. The Tiffany location is 5th Avenue, 57th Street. And for many years, I mean, even when I was so young that they were throwing me out of the company, the people that owned that particular location, for many years I went to a certain public company, large company, and tried to buy the block with the exception of Tiffany.
How old were you?
Well, I guess I started that when I was 27. And they said, forget it, forget it. A major department store happened to be located on that block. It was called Bonwood Teller. And they would always say, forget it, forget it, forget it. And one day I got a phone call, and I'd always forward, by the way, the letters and as per our meeting and this and that. And one day I got a phone call, and they wanted to know if we wanted to make a deal very quickly and very easily. And I guess I was the only one, because everyone assumed, frankly, that that block of real estate would never be sold, and it was sold. And we proceeded to buy the air rights over Tiffany, which is a zoning term for area and space over Tiffany, and we're now building a 68-story tower at 5th Avenue and 57th Street, which is going to be, I believe, the most spectacular building of its kind in the world.
Considering the pollution problem we have today, do you think that was a good buy?
The pollution problem? Well, it's above the
Buying
pollution.
the air.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, I think it was a good buy. I think it'll be a fabulous situation for the people that are going to be moving into the building. And I mean, you know, everybody really in the world is excited about that building, because nobody believed it would be possible to build that kind of a building in that location, because nobody ever assumed that that location could possibly be purchased. But all of a sudden it was. And maybe it was mind over matter again. You know, maybe you just really believe that someday you'll own that location, and you end up owning that location. So maybe it is mind over matter. Maybe it's luck. Maybe I was lucky that they happened to call me very quickly instead of calling any one of a number of other people that would have jumped on it. But they did call me, and I bought the site.
To attain the kinds of things that you've attained in real estate, can you do it without having political clout?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, people give me a lot of credit for having political clout, which I really necessarily don't have. I look at my ideas as something that sell themselves, and I think the politicians in New York have been very decent and very open as far as Donald Trump is concerned. I think they've, number one, looked at the project and they've said the projects are great, the projects and the ideas are good, but the convention center is an example. That convention center that I proposed was many times better than any of the other competing convention centers, because everybody that had a site that was large tried to convince the city and state to build it on their site. But the fact is, our site was better. It was adjudged to be better. And I think, politically speaking, I think what the state is going to do is they're going to build a better convention center in a better location than originally planned, and they're going to save at least $100 million over and above what they were originally talking about building the center for. So I don't know what that has to do with the political connections, although I have been accused of having political connections.
Do you have political connections?
I really say no.
You say no?
I absolutely say no. I think if I went...
Is it because people think that it's ugly, like the word ambition, to have political friends
No.
who can help you?
Well, in fact, I do have many political friends, but I really believe that without the proper ideas and the proper concepts and the proper planning and you know, I don't believe I could have sold one of the other convention center sites. I believe my site was the best. I really believe that. And I don't think I would have been successful in trying to sell one of the other sites, as the other groups were not successful in selling their site. I believe that the Grand Hyatt Hotel, which has now opened up and which is booked out and tremendously, it's just a tremendous operation. At the time I did it, the hotel that occupied that site was a closed, boarded up building. And people were not exactly even against the fact that we got various tax abatements, et cetera, for that particular site. What's happened is the area has turned out to be AAA. Philip Morris is building its world headquarters. The Chrysler building is booming. The rents over there are tremendous. The area is thriving. We're doing the restoration of Grand Central Terminal. And it's turned out to be a wonderful idea. But at the time, everyone loved my idea because they thought it might lead to the total revival of the Grand Central Terminal area, and it has.
But what made you think of it, though? Was it just because it was a piece of property that you could acquire for the right price and you thought it was? Did you do some feasibility studies? I mean, what said to you one day, Donald, you must go and buy the old Commodore Hotel and transform that into the new Grand Hyatt?
Well, I think it was monumental. You know, it was a monumental approach to things that I've sort of developed. The building itself was there. You had Grand Central Terminal there. You have the Pan Am building there. You have the Chrysler building there. The whole area is monumental. The key to that area was the old Commodore Hotel, which was now gutted and redone and is a spectacular hotel. The process of doing the monumental deal to me has always been much easier than the process of doing the small deal.
Young man, there's no need to feel down. I said, young man, pick yourself off the ground. I said, young man, 'cause you're in a new town. There's no need to be unhappy. Young man, there's a place you can go. I said, young man, when you're short on your dough, you can stay there. And I'm sure you will find many ways to have a good time.
Sometimes a door gets closed in your face. How do you get those doors open? What makes you go on?
Well, you do get many doors closed. There's no question about that, Rona. That's something that's happened in many cases. And I guess you just have to keep going. I guess you really just have to keep pushing and just get going. And the funny thing is, once you open the first door, it becomes a lot easier to open the second door. I mean, for instance, today, it's much easier for me to have things happen than it would have been 5 years ago before any of these conceptions or conceptual ideas really came into fruition. Today is much easier for me to make a phone call and try and have something happen than it was 5 years ago.
Can you remember your very first deal?
Well, I've always been making deals, even when I was very young. I mean, you know, it's
Well,
just...
you're very young. How old were you when you set out without any help from anyone to make your very first deal?
That I couldn't say, but I can tell you that it's an instinct that some people have where they enjoy doing certain things. And I've always enjoyed being somewhat creative and working out various deal concepts. But I really couldn't tell you what the first was, Rona.
Were you 12 or 13 years old when you began thinking about concepts? Were you younger than that? Did it start when you were in your teens and your early 20s? When do you think it really all began for you?
Well, I guess probably sometime during high school and during college and during whatever. I think you probably just start forming, the brain cells start forming in that direction, but I really don't know when exactly. I wish I could answer that question a little bit better.
There was an article recently that headlined, "Like Father, Like Son." Are you like your dad?
Well, I hope so. I have a very wonderful father, and I would hope I'd be somewhat like my father.
What's he like?
Strong, dynamic gentleman.
Is he loving, kind,
Absolutely.
giving?
Absolutely. Totally.
Could you go to him anytime you had a problem?
Oh,
Was he that kind of a father?
Absolutely, I could, yes.
There's always been this sort of thing, this theory about people who are born into wealth, that the parents shuttle them off to private schools, that you have nannies and governesses, that your parents are really never around when you need them, and a lot of children of the well-to-do have never really been very happy. Some have grown up, of course. There's always the exception to the rule.
That's right.
Were you shunted off to private schools, or did you go to public schools, or what was that
Well,
like?
I was sent to private schools, but probably never shunted off. I went to the private schools, and I went through the whole scenario. But I've always had parents that were very supportive. In fact, very supportive over the last 5 and 6 and 7 years, because I needed support over the last 5 or 6 years. I was being criticized very badly for concepts and ideas that probably at the time would not have been viable, and it turned out that they turned out to be very viable. So I needed the support of a family, of a good family and a strong family, and a family that backed my thinking. And they did, and you know, and now I think they can sit back and say, well, we made the right decision. But I've always had a very supportive family.
Are you hurt by criticism?
No, not really. I've been used to criticism because I've taken a lot of criticism over the last number of years.
I don't think anybody gets used to criticism, though, Donald. I think you can develop sort of what I call a right guard shield around you, but I think the first time people start attacking you, if you've never been attacked before, it's a feeling and an emotion and an action that is not accustomed, that you're not accustomed to.
No, Mr. Trump, I have a closed mind against evidence that is not substantiated.
Oh, well.
I have a closed mind against statements that are made about other people in general.
You're going to be very embarrassed in 2 years, sir.
You go on a radio show and you say, now some drunken Indians want to come down here and open a reservation.
I didn't say that, sir. Quote it. I didn't say that. Who said that? Who said that? I'd like an apology right now because I didn't say that.
Imus opened the broadcast, so, excuse me, Mr. Imus said that.
Okay.
Imus said
Could I
that.
please have an apology?
You can have an apology.
Thank you, sir.
It looks a little,
Cheap?
yeah, it looks cheap.
Yeah. You mean the amount of money?
Well, the amount of money...
Not so bad. Somebody gets married and it doesn't work out, you get $1 million. I mean, you know, and I think $1 million is a lot of money.
No, you don't.
No, I don't, actually.
How do you handle it, or how did you handle it the first time?
First of all, I think you are right. I think you probably never really get used to it in the total sense. And maybe all I'm doing when you say, you know, do you mind criticism? And I say, no, I really don't. Maybe I'm just creating my own little psychological wedge also for maybe that kind of a question. But you just have to go with it. I mean, you're always going to be criticized no matter what you do, and you have to realize it, and you really have to develop a little bit of a tough skin. And if you don't, you really cannot survive, I suspect, doing anything of any great importance.
Do you like having a tough skin? Do you think you have to have a killer instinct in order to be successful?
I think you have to have some, to a large extent, I think you do have to have at least a winning instinct. I think that the world is made up of people with either killer instincts or without killer instincts. And the people that seem to emerge all the time, it doesn't mean they're the best people, and it doesn't mean they're the happiest people, and in fact, in many cases, and in most cases, they're probably not. But the people that seem to emerge are the people that are competitive and driven and with a certain instinct to win.
You use the word competitive and driven. I'd like to know, what drives you?
Enjoyment. Pure and simple enjoyment, rather.
I want to buy the enjoyment, but somehow I feel that there's something underneath it, that there's something more that makes you want to succeed, want to be who you are.
Well,
what do you think it is?
maybe I can just, but maybe I could just add the word creativity. I really enjoy creating, and maybe this is my form of creativity. You know, building a 68-story building on Fifth Avenue is my form of creativity, and making it the finest, not only the location, but instead of building an average building, we're going to make it the finest building in the world. And maybe that's my form of enjoyment, which gives me a little bit more drive than somebody else may or may not have, which allows me to do these things. But I feel that enjoyment really has a large part to do with it, creativity, and just incentive, just having the incentive to go out and do something.
Everything I've read about you, listening to you speak, as I think I said in the very beginning, work apparently is your love. Is that true?
Well, work is something that I enjoy very much. I can't say that it's my love. I mean, I have a lot of other things that, are very dear and very dear to me, but I certainly do enjoy work, and it is certainly a love.
I was going to ask you, is there room for a wife and a child in your list or on your list of priorities?
Oh, sure. I mean, marriage is a very important thing for people. I fully believe it. I think that having the home and having the stability, and I've had it all different ways. I mean, I've had it the other way, and I've had it the marriage way, and I think that marriage is a very important. Having a good wife and having a nice family is a very, very important. There is no substitute for it, frankly. There really is no substitute for it.
Are you friends?
Yes, absolutely. With my wife, absolutely. Absolutely.
Is it important?
I think it's the most important thing. I mean, you have to be best friends. If you're not going to be best friends, then the marriage cannot work. No matter what the other ingredients are, the marriage really can't work.
Speaking of friends, is it easy for a man of wealth to develop friendships? Friendships in the traditional sense.
Well, I think it's easier to develop friendships, but I'm not so sure when you get back down to the traditional sense, and that would mean the friends that are here in good times and bad. I'm not so sure necessarily how many of those friends would be around if things did take a turn for the worse. I've oftentimes thought that I'd like to test some people and find out, and just play the little game of doing the testing, and which has been done on occasion. But it's very easy to develop friends, but it's very hard to see whether or not they're real friends.
Do you think a real friend has to be someone who has the same things you have, monetarily speaking?
No, I don't think so. I think probably maybe just the opposite. I would not say so. I think that...
But isn't there a doubt then in your mind that you're always wondering if that person isn't there to try to get something from you, Donald Trump?
Well, there would always be that doubt, but if you know people well enough, I think maybe one of my greatest strengths is understanding people, you know, specific people for specific jobs, and just understanding the human psyche of other people. Maybe not even my own quite as well, but of other people. And I'd like to think that I can tell the difference between somebody that's looking for one thing and somebody that's looking for the other. But you really never can. I mean, no matter how well you understand people, until there's a time of test. And we shall see what we shall see.
In 30 years from now, your son will be approximately the age that you are today. Would you like to see the same kind of headline as was written about you, father like son?
Well, I think that'd be fine, but I think more important to me would be that my son would be happy, that my family would be happy. I mean, I really don't care that much whether or not he decides to go into this business or go into another business. I find this business very exciting. I find this business to be show business, frankly. You know, in terms of what we've done, I'd like to make it a little bit show busy. Because I don't like show business that much. I do like the real estate business, but I like the concept of show business as it relates to the real estate business. But I would like my son mostly to be happy, and if he's happy, then I'm really satisfied. And if he'd be happy doing what I'm doing, then I'd be probably a little bit more satisfied.
I never thought I'd be doing this, I have to tell you. So just everybody have a good time, enjoy yourselves, and for many years enjoy the Trump shuttle.
One day, if someone were to make a movie, you talk about show business and a relationship here. One day, if someone were to make a movie of your life, who would you see playing yourself?
Maybe myself. I have to tell you that I really could not answer that question. I really could not answer.
Are you trying to say that after you've accomplished all in real estate, you might like to try acting?
Oh no, not at all, Rhoda. Believe me, that would be something that I would have no interest in. No interest whatsoever. But I really wouldn't be able to tell you who would play the so-called leading role.
Would you like to see your life in the movies?
No.
You don't think you're that exciting a person, that you've had such an interesting story that
Well, I always like to say that I think my deals are the most exciting deals. I don't necessarily want the excitement for myself. And I've always been somewhat guarded about that. I mean, I do think we probably have, and I'm not saying it, it's been recognized that we have the most exciting real estate transactions in the country at this moment. And I would say that I think they're by themselves, they are very exciting. And that satisfies me. That's my excitement, is really seeing what happens with them.
Do you have to worry about the drudgery that we have to worry about? I mean, going to the market, buying the things that you need for your house, for your homes. Do you do things like that? Do you have somebody do things like that for you?
Well, no, we lead a very normal life, and we always everybody has to worry about drudgery in one form or the other. But, no, we do quite a bit of work. You'd be surprised, Rona.
Well,
surprised.
Can I see you one day walking the streets or going into a market and buying food for your family or for yourself?
Well, you might. I mean, if you pick the right day, it could happen.
It could happen,
yeah,
really?
It could probably happen, yes. I think my philosophy basically is there has to be something to this. I mean, we just can't be put here for the sake of living our 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years, whatever it might be, and just end up with nothing at the end of that time after all the combat. And I really look at life to a certain extent as combat. There has to be something. I mean, we have to be in a test period, or there has to be something after this. Otherwise, it just seems so futile.
Now, are you metaphysical?
No.
Do you believe that there is a hereafter?
I believe there probably is a hereafter, yes.
Do you believe that we come on Earth to learn certain lessons about life?
Well, I believe we come on Earth maybe as a testing period, and maybe for whatever reason. I guess, again, that goes back to the mind with the 1% and the 3%. If we could expand to 3% of the use of the mind, maybe we'd be able to figure out what happens afterwards. But we probably will not be able to figure that out.
Since you brought up that thought, you must have been given some time to that idea. Why do you think, in 34 years, that you've been brought here?
Well, I have done a couple of things which maybe on the outside don't appear to be very humanitarian, but I think inwardly I think they probably are. We have created thousands of jobs for people that maybe wouldn't have jobs today. We've created, industry in a city which, again, while today it's thriving and probably considered the best, 5 years ago at the time we did it, it was not considered to be thriving. And in my own way, I suspect that we've just created a certain amount of happiness in many houses where instead of going on a welfare line or whatever, the people have now come home with a nice paycheck, who are now working successfully in one of our developments. So I think in a sense maybe I was put on Earth to have fulfilled that function. And I think that's an important function.
It seems to me that anyone who has acquired the kind of wealth that you have has had to make some compromises. Do you have any regrets
About that particular aspect?
about that and anything else?
No, I don't have any regrets about that. I can tell you just a crazy thing has happened. That week, as you have just said, we've gotten a tremendous amount of publicity because we ripped down the Bonwit Teller building and people considered it landmark status and people considered it this and that. And I would have assumed it would have been negative publicity. What's happened is we've gotten literally thousands of phone calls because of that publicity of people wanting to move into that building. So it's had an exact reverse. It's a phenomena as far as I'm concerned, but the human mind is the greatest phenomena of all, I suspect. But we've gotten actually a very positive response from people. Most people understand that in order to make progress, you have to do things which aren't necessarily going to make you the most popular boy on the block. And that's what we did. In that case, we had a decision to make, and we had to make a decision.
Is that something you learned all by yourself, or was it instilled in you by your father or your
Well,
grandparents or anyone?
I think maybe it's something that was instilled, and maybe it's something that you've learned through a little bit of trial and error over the years. I think this country maybe is a good example. I just don't feel the country is going forward in the proper direction. We could have made quick decisions, and we would have been a lot better off than the way we've been sitting around over the last couple of years and just watching everybody else do everything, and we just sit back and take everybody's abuse. It's a very sad situation that somebody isn't there making the decisions and pushing the right and proper, I don't want to use the word buttons, frankly, but pushing the right levers so that we can go out and do things as we're supposed to be doing them.
You are a mover, you are a doer. If you could make America perfect, how would you do it?
Well, I think that America is a country that has tremendous potential. I think that much like the mind, I think that America is using very little of its potential. I feel that this country with the proper leadership can go on to become what it once was. And I hope, and certainly hope, that it does go on to be what it should be.
What should it be?
Well, it should really be a country that gets the respect of other countries.
Is respect the most important thing in your opinion?
Well, respect can lead to other things. When you get the respect of the other countries, then the other countries tend to do a little bit as you do, and you can create the right attitudes. The Iranian situation is a case in point. That they hold our hostages is just absolutely and totally ridiculous. That this country sits back and allows a country such as Iran to hold our hostages, to my way of thinking, is a horror. And I don't think they'd do it with other countries. I honestly don't think they'd do it with other countries.
Obviously, you're advocating that we should have gone in there with troops, etc., and brought our boys out.
I absolutely feel that, yes. I don't think there's any question, there's no question in my mind. I think right now would be an oil-rich nation, and I believe that we should have done it, and I'm very disappointed that we didn't do it, and I don't think anybody would have held us in abeyance I don't think anybody would have been angry with us, and we had every right to do it at the time. I think we've lost the opportunity.
Donald, would you have wanted to be one of those men to have gone to Iran, and taken those fellows out?
No, I wouldn't have wanted to be, but I would have done it.
Would you?
Absolutely. If I were the age, if I were in the military.
There were a lot of those fellows who went for that aborted coup, who were 34 years old and older. They were your age.
That's right.
If you were called upon, would you? I know it's easy to say, yes, of course I would go, but if the phone rang right now and someone from the Selective Service had said, Donald, we're taking every young man 34 years of age, we're sending him to war, would you go to war?
No, I don't see a war. You see, the war this is not a Vietnam situation, fortunately. The war, in fact, with Iraq.
There is a war waging here right now.
Oh, yes, there is a war, and it's a war where nobody has any tanks, has any guns. It's a war where everyone's standing around. That would have been the easiest victory we would have ever won, in my opinion.
When I look at television, I see men being shot up, legs being blown off.
You're talking about two non-existent armies. I mean, Iran has an army composed of American equipment without parts and without anything else, and Iraq has a very weak army, and they're just really fighting each other. I mean, it's almost hand-to-hand combat. If you see now, they've run out. It's a sad situation, Rona, but it's a situation which ultimately is going to get much worse. That little sparkle of war, that little sparkle is going to lead, in my opinion, to a much, much greater conflict, and I think that's very unfortunate.
For some people, the ultimate goal in life has been becoming the President of the United States. Would you like to be the President of the United States?
I really don't believe I would, Rona, but I would like to see somebody as the President who could do the job, and there are very capable people in this country.
Most people who are capable are not running for office. Most men are frightened of politics today.
It is a shame, isn't it?
Yes.
It is a shame. The most capable people are not necessarily running for political office, and that is a very sad commentary in the country. They had major corporations and they had this and that, but they are not running for political office.
Why wouldn't someone like yourself run for political office? You have all the money that you possibly need. You've accomplished a great deal, even though you are only 34. I know there's a lot of things that you possibly can do in the years ahead. Why wouldn't you dedicate yourself to public service?
Because I think it's a very mean life. I would love and I would dedicate my life to this country, but I see it as being a mean life, and I also see it as somebody with strong views and somebody with the kind of views that are maybe a little bit unpopular, which may be right, but may be unpopular, wouldn't necessarily have a chance of getting elected against somebody with no great brain but a big smile. And that's a sad commentary for the political process.
Television, in a strange way, has ruined that process, hasn't it?
It's hurt the process very much. I mean, the Abraham Lincolns of the world. Abraham Lincoln would probably not be electable today because of television. He was not a handsome man, and he did not smile at all. He would not be considered to be a prime candidate for the presidency, and that's a shame, isn't it?
But if all the men are like you, then when are we going to get somebody who might be good?
I don't know. I hope it's around the corner, but I don't know. I really don't know. What I would like to be involved in is trying to help choose somebody, or working with a group of people whereby they put up a candidate who would be acceptable to be a presidential, to be the president. The country, if we had the one man, and it's really not that big a situation. You know, people say, well, what could anybody do as president? The one man could turn this country around. The one proper president could turn this country around. I firmly believe that.
You think there is one man?
There is one man that can turn this country around. I could tell you, I know a number of people that would be excellent presidents. I will not tell you who they are, but I know a number of people that could be excellent presidents of this country. But they are not running for political office. They're not in political office. They're extraordinarily brilliant. They're very, very competent. They're leaders. They have the respect of everybody, and they would be fabulous presidents, but they're not running for political office, and I think that's very sad. And I think you said it. Maybe television is the thing that most hurt the political process in this country.
If you lost your fortune today, what would you do tomorrow?
Maybe I'd run for president. I don't know.
You mean you think you have to be bankrupt with not a dime in your pocket in order to be a good president?
No, I'm only kidding. You know, when I say that, of course, I'm being somewhat facetious. But I have to tell you, a lot of people would vote for you if you were in that position because they'd feel sorry for you. And again, I think that's a very sad commentary. I think that's a very sad commentary.
That every man who's aspired to the White House in recent years has been a millionaire and better.
Well, that could be, but I don't consider millionaires and better. You know, Plains, Georgia, I'm not sure if that's necessarily a millionaire or better. I really look at a person's mind and his own individual competence, not necessarily his wallet.
Do you think there's a distinction between millionaires and millionaires?
Oh, absolutely. There's a great distinction.
What is the distinction?
I mean, millionaires today they've done a study that there are 500,000 millionaires in the United States and this and that. Well, I look at really, again, I don't like to look at the distinction between wealth and wealth, because once you attain a certain wealth, it all doesn't really matter. I really like to look at the individual characteristics of a person and to see whether or not that person is really what I like a person to be.
Donald Trump is a major deal maker, a swashbuckler. Donald, you're in your late 30s. You got 40 years to live, minimum.
Well, I hope you're right about that.
What are you going to do?
There are a lot of things to do. You know, a fertile imagination and a good fertile mind, Mike, it's really amazing what can be thought of. There are so many things to do.
Politics?
So many. No, not politics.
You've said that you could do a better job at negotiating an arms control agreement with the Soviets than some of these professionals who've been trying to do it for years.
I didn't say me, Mike. I said somebody has to do it. If it were me, that'd be fine. I could do it. Somebody has to help this country, and if they don't, the country and the world are in big trouble. Because within a short period of time, as sure as we're sitting here, there's not going to be a country and there's not going to be a world.
Donald Trump, the multi-millionaire real estate developer, is sounding more like a politician these days than America's most grandiose and controversial builder. When he disagrees with a matter of policy, he does it in a big way. Today, he sunk $95,000 into a full-page newspaper ad appearing in many papers criticizing the administration's foreign policy. Rumblings in the Trump camp point as far as the presidency. Could the Manhattan magnate be eyeing the White House, or is he just calling a bluff? Are you a Republican, Donald?
I'm a Republican, yes.
So if there were politics, it would be as a Republican.
It would be, I guess, as a Republican, but I don't see that there will be politics.
Why the ad, then? I mean, you said you wanted to say it. There's a lot of ways you can say things. I guess an ad is one way. You could have called up shows like this who would have been trying to have you come on. Why now?
Well, it was very easy. I was tired, and I think a lot of people are tired of watching other countries ripping off the United States. This is a great country. They laugh at us. Behind our backs, they laugh at us because of our own stupidity and the leaders. I mean, what we have a Persian Gulf situation. You saw what happened today. Billions and billions of dollars are being spent on getting oil for Japan, and they're not paying anything for it. Essentially, they're paying nothing for it. We have tankers going back and forth that our men are protecting, losing their lives. I mean, they're losing their lives, Larry. We're spending billions and billions on protection, and those tankers are going over to Japan. It's just preposterous. I watched the Kuwaiti oil minister the other day laughing as he was explaining how much money they intend to make with the Bridgeton, which has been a total disaster, the Bridgeton. And I said to myself, isn't that a shame? He's talking about how much money they're going to make, and here we are. He's smiling and laughing. Why don't we get some of it? Why is it that we're protecting? We have frogmen, we have helicopters, we have aircraft carriers, and all sorts of ships all over the Persian Gulf, so that this man and his little group can make a lot of money. I think it's ridiculous.
Well, one of the reasons we say we're doing it is because we've been doing it, that all previous presidents have endorsed doing it. I guess the kind of thinking of an entrepreneur is because somebody else said it was right doesn't make it right, right?
Larry, the country is losing $200 billion a year. $200 billion. This country cannot continue to lose $200 billion. Japan is one of the wealthiest machines ever created. Saudi Arabia, and it's not, hey, let me tell you, I'm a big beneficiary of Japan. They buy my apartments in spades. They're fine people, but they're laughing to themselves as to what's happening over here. We're not kidding ourselves. They're laughing to themselves, Larry, as to what's happening with this country.
But Donald, a lot of people feel the way you feel, and a lot of people maybe with as much money, or certainly some people with as much money feel the way you feel. Why did you go public?
Because somebody had to, Larry. I watch it again, and it's a very important point. Japan is a money machine. Saudi Arabia is a money machine. Kuwait, these are money machines, the greatest ever created. The United States is, if it were a corporation, it would be bankrupt. It's losing $200 billion a year. For years now, it's been losing that. What right do we have to go out and defend? Why aren't these countries, these wealthy money machines, paying us for the defense of their freedom and their nations? Why aren't they paying us?
We are kind of the world's keeper, are we not?
I don't believe we should be. I think Japan should certainly make a contribution. Japan is one of the reasons they're so successful is they don't have to worry about defense, because why should they worry about defense when the United States will do it for nothing? I mean, it's crazy. Saudi Arabia, I mean, you saw what happened with Saudi Arabia. We're going through the Gulf. We have old-fashioned, obsolete minesweepers. We ask Saudi Arabia for the use of their minesweepers, which are the best made, the most modern, the best, and they say no. Who are they to tell us no? We're not going to give you our minesweepers. It's ridiculous. They're only there for the sake of us as far as that's concerned. We are protective of Saudi Arabia. They should pay for that.
Are we going to be hearing more from Mr. Trump on issues like this as we go along?
I really don't know, Larry. This is an issue that's been bothering me. It's been bothering a lot of people that I know, and I think it's an issue that had to be brought out to the fore. The concept of America financing and paying and losing lives for countries that won't even allow us to use their ships. And these are the countries that in 24 hours they'd be wiped off the face of the earth if it weren't for America. It's ridiculous.
By the way, a couple of other things, then we'll take some calls for Donald Trump. Is it true that you're going to go to New Hampshire in October at the invitation of Mike Dunbar, who's heading a group called Draft Donald Trump?
Well, I was asked about 3 or 4 weeks ago whether or not, by a very good friend of mine, whether or not I'd go to New Hampshire. That's turned out to be now a much bigger deal than I had ever anticipated. And perhaps, I don't know, I am going. I made the commitment to go. I made the commitment about 3 weeks ago, and I will go, yes.
You will go, even though you realize now, in just stepping foot in that state, people are going to presume things.
Well, they can presume whatever they want. I have no intention of running for president, but I'd like the point to get across that we have a great country, but it's not going to be great for long if we're going to continue to lose $200 billion a year. You're going to get into the early 90s, 1990, 1991, and the whole thing's going to blow, because this country cannot continue to support Japan and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and many other countries that are much wealthier than we are. We're not a wealthy country. You can't be a wealthy country when you're losing the kind of money that we're losing.
We're a debtor country.
You took out a full-page ad in major U.S. newspapers last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, you know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
What do you think of this year's presidential race, the way it's shaping up?
Well, it's going to be very interesting. I think that probably George Bush has an advantage in terms of the election. I think that probably people would say that he's got like that little edge in terms of the incumbency, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Jesse Jackson's done himself very proud. I think Michael Dukakis has done one hell of a job. And George Bush has done a hell of a job. You know, they all went in there sort of as semi-underdogs, including George Bush, and they've all come out. I think people that are around all three of those candidates can be very proud of the jobs they've done.
You've said, though, that if you did run for president, you believe you'd win.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd win. I tell you what, I wouldn't go in to lose. I've never gone in to lose in my life. And if I did decide to do it, I think I'd be inclined. I would say that I would have a hell of a chance of winning, because I think people, I don't know how your audience feels, but I think people are tired of seeing the United States ripped off. And I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing. This country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage. It wouldn't be the way it's been, believe me.
Did you know Donald Trump flew into New Hampshire on the Trump helicopter, landing in Portsmouth in 1987. He then delivered a speech to the Rotary Club at Yokin's Restaurant nearly 30 years before he took office. The same year, Joe Biden stopped by New Hampshire State House for a visit, 22 years before he would enter the White House as vice president.
Good luck, everyone. Thank you all for being here.
Hi, nice to see you. How you doing? Nice to see you again. Nice to be here. Typical New Hampshire winter day, huh? Where are we heading? Over here?
On the Republican side, there's speculation that developer Donald Trump may throw his hat into the ring. His name is already well known to millions of Americans thanks to the Trump Tower and other real estate holdings. The speculation was fueled by ads that Trump took in 3 newspapers today. Christopher Jones has that story.
To this morning's readers of the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Boston Globe, Donald Trump's full-page open letter to the American people may have looked like a rich man speaking out on American foreign policy.
Why'd you write the letter?
Because I'm frustrated at looking and seeing the stupidity of what's going on in this country with respect to essentially our foreign policy.
Fair enough, but some ask, would Donald Trump pay $95,000 to complain about foreign policy? Or is this his way of saying he's running for president? The ads come at a time when a draft Trump movement is building steam in New Hampshire. So we asked him.
Are you running for president?
Absolutely not. I'm not running. I have no intention of running. I'm greatly honored that this New Hampshire group sees fit to choose me as opposed to others, because it's a very credible group. Everybody's been trying to get their support, and I'm very honored.
We may have to wait to see how most of the nation takes to Donald Trump, but at least one New Yorker has already made up his mind.
I find those ads ridiculous. He spent $100,000 for self-advertisements. Who's really interested in his foreign policy? Anybody? Maybe Mrs. Trump.
Ed Koch has been a disaster as a mayor. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it.
I want to make it very clear, I'm very biased. I don't like him.
Ed Koch has been a lousy mayor. I believe he'll go down as probably in history the worst mayor in the history of the city of New York. And, you know, when I say that, it's hard for him to say, I really like Donald Trump.
So right now, ask Donald Trump if he wants to be president of the United States, and he will tell you no. But if a wave of support develops for him in New Hampshire, don't look for Donald Trump to get out of the water. Christopher Jones, Fox News, Channel 5.
Do you have a vice presidential candidate in mind?
Well, I really haven't gotten quite there yet.
I guess it's just
Oprah. I love Oprah. Oprah would always be my first choice. Oprah, your competitor, right?
Oprah's competitor.
You know what? I'll tell you, she's really a great woman. She is a terrific woman. She's somebody that's very special. I have not even thought about it. I guess we'll see. We'll see. Maybe that's part of the whole process.
Would she be someone, I mean, kidding aside, that you might think about?
If she'd do it, she'd be fantastic. I mean, she's popular. She's brilliant. She's a wonderful woman. I mean, if she'd ever do it, I don't know that she'd ever do it. She's got.
You'd ask her.
She'd be sort of like me. I mean, I have a lot of things going. She's got a lot of things going.
What a ticket that would be.
That would be a pretty good ticket. But she's a very exceptional woman.
What makes a good president?
Well, I think the leadership qualities. You know, the sad part about President Clinton, who I happen to like a lot, but he could have had a great presidency if the whole thing with Monica and Paula Jones, and the worst of all is, you know, Linda Tripp. I mean, this woman, where she came from, I have no idea, but this is the woman from hell.
But he didn't have anything to do with Linda.
No, he didn't, but she always seems to surface, and she's just
Donald Trump signs copies of his new book, The America We Deserve. A few feet away, Governor Ventura signs copies of his autobiography, I Ain't Got Time to Bleed. It seems more like a book signing than a presidential campaign stop. Actually, it's neither. It's a fundraiser for Ventura's campaign committee.
He hasn't announced himself as a candidate for president yet, but I will say this, I certainly hope that he does.
But still, presidential politics is the prime topic. Ventura saying he hopes Trump will run. Trump saying if Ventura would run, he'd win every debate.
If you had this man up there with any one of those candidates, it is such a blowout that you have no idea.
Trump spent about 8 hours in the Twin Cities, selling books, meeting with Reform Party members, and helping Ventura raise money.
I've put forward a proposal to pay off the national debt by imposing a one-time 14.25% tax on the super wealthy.
But during a speech to a Chamber of Commerce luncheon, Trump sounded like he's running for president, and people seem to like some of his ideas.
If a businessman can run his business and make that kind of profit, he can do well for our country.
He would definitely give us something different to look at.
But Trump won't say if he is running, and Ventura won't say if he'll endorse him if he does. The chair of the Minnesota Reform Party thinks both will happen.
I'm very much of the impression that Mr. Trump will be throwing his hat in the ring, running for our nomination.
In his 2000 book, The America We Deserve, Trump wrote, "I really am convinced we're in danger of the sort of terrorist attacks that will make the bombing of the 1993 Trade Center look like little kids playing with firecrackers." Trump also mentioned the mastermind of the attack, writing, quote, "One day, we're told that a shadowy figure with no fixed address named Osama bin Laden is public enemy number one, and U.S. jet fighters lay waste to his camp in Afghanistan. He escapes back under some rock, and a few news cycles later, it's on to a new enemy and a new crisis." Trump.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second. Is this really Trump before 9/11? Have you read this?
It's 2000 in his book.
Are we making this? Somebody, did you make this up, Mika?
Nick.
I did.
Did you make this up?
Yeah,
Nick,
exactly.
tell us it's over, right? Because
Will
you're
you
wrong
stop?
about everything.
Mika, stop. God.
I don't think it's over.
What's that? What's the rage here? Will you stop
No,
picking
it's
on
cute.
him?
I think it's cute.
Well,
go for it.
No, really quickly though. I mean, so Willie, that was
2000.
In a book he wrote in the year 2000.
Well, it was published in 2000. He could have written in 1999 for all we know.
Exactly.
We are having some technical difficulties, which is totally understandable when you try to do ad hoc reporting and getting information to you as fast as we possibly can and making sure that it's accurate at the same time. So
Donald Trump is on the line. I mean, we know him as the man behind lots of real estate in Manhattan, and of course, Donald, I understand you were actually a witness to what happened this morning.
Well, I have a window that looks directly at the World Trade Center, and I saw this huge explosion. I was with a group of people, and I really couldn't even believe it. And even, I think, worse than that, for years I've looked right directly at the building. I'd see the Empire State Building in the foreground and the World Trade Center in the background, and now I'm looking at absolutely nothing. It's just gone, and it's just hard to believe.
Donald, Alan Marcus here. Your building is, the Trump Tower, is one of the great tourist attractions in the world. It's well known universally. Are you taking any precautions there in light of what happened at the World Trade Center?
Well, Alan, we've always had, as you know, very, very strong security, but there's very little you can do about planes crashing into a building. I mean, you look at Larry Silverstein, who's a terrific owner in New York and a very good friend of mine who I just called. I was very worried about him because I assumed maybe he was in the building. He took possession of the building 1 week ago. As you know, he just bought the World Trade Center.
Right.
And he was in his office, and he was getting ready to move into the World Trade Center over the next 2 weeks. So, and I just spoke to him, there's nothing you can do when people are going to be bombing planes at your building. Now, I guess maybe the world is going to be changing, and maybe you're going to have F-16s flying all over the city, etc. But it's a pretty tough situation.
Donald, you have one of the landmark buildings down in the financial district, 40 Wall Street. Did you have any damage, or did you know what's happened down there?
Well, it was an amazing phone call I made. 40 Wall Street actually was the second tallest building in downtown Manhattan, and it was actually, before the World Trade Center, was the tallest. And then when they built the World Trade Center, it became known as the second tallest, and now it's the tallest. And I just spoke to my people, and they said it's the most unbelievable sight. It's probably 7 or 8 blocks away from the World Trade Center, and yet Wall Street is littered with 2 feet of stone and brick and mortar and steel, and there are thousands of people walking over the debris over the Brooklyn Bridge, where they're sending them out over the Brooklyn Bridge to Brooklyn, and then I guess they're going to have to figure out how to get home from there. But they have between 1 foot and 2 feet of debris right in front of a building that's probably, you would say, Alan, 6 or 7 blocks away.
Donald, this is Roland Smith.
Hi, Roland.
You know, how you doing on this kind of day? You know, at some point, we're going to put all this behind us. And you, as a visionary, particularly in New York real estate, what do you think that we ought to do as a city, as a people, when all of this gets, when the mourning stops, when the dead are honored, and we've found out what caused it and maybe corrected it? What does the city need to do?
Well, I guess the big thing that you really will have to do is never forget. You just can't forget that something like this happened. I was so disappointed when they closed the stock exchange, but of course, at some point, you had no choice, you know, when they initially announced it was closing, because you want to just say, the hell with it, you're going forward, nothing's going to change. But the fact is something has changed very dramatically. And I think one of the very sad things is going to be when you look at the skyline of New York, which has become so emblazoned in your own memory, and you look at the skyline of New York and you see these buildings, these two buildings, whether you love them or don't love them, they were a great part of the skyline. And then when you look at the skyline after 2001, and you're going to see a skyline without these two buildings, you're going to say, what happened? People won't believe it. You know, when you show your children or your grandchildren in years to come what New York looked like in the year 2000, and then what New York looked like just a year later, they're going to say, what happened?
Hey, Donald,
it's hard to believe.
in the year 2000, Donald, you considered running for president. If you had done that and if you had been successful, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
Well, I'd be taking a very, very tough line, Alan. I mean, you know, most people feel they know at least approximately the group of people that did this and where they are. But boy, would you have to take a hard line on this. This just can't be tolerated, and it's got to be very, very stern. This is, as you and I were discussing before, Alan, this was probably worse than Pearl Harbor. Many more people are dead, and you know, they don't know, they have no idea, but I have somebody that was down there who witnessed at least 10 people jumping out of the building from 70 and 80 stories up in the air.
I have hundreds of men inside working right now, and we're bringing down another 125 in a little while, and they've never done work like this before. And they're hardworking people, but they've never seen anything like it, and they've never done work like this before. It's terrible.
Tell me what it's like at Ground Zero. Tell me about the workers that you saw and what they're doing there.
Well, not only is it devastation, but it's very dangerous, because every few minutes a whistle would go off and everybody would just run, because you have all the buildings around it, which are in such a weakened state that people just don't know. And so they just have to take off. And then they come back and they're working under 50-story buildings that you don't know if they're going to fall down. So it's a terrible thing for the workers, and it's a terrible thing for the world, really.
Good morning. Welcome to Trump Tower. It's an honor to have all of you with us. If we rebuild the World Trade Center in the form of a skeleton, Freedom Tower, the terrorists win. We want to rebuild the World Trade Center as the World Trade Center, but better. A little bit taller, a lot stronger, just plain better.
Cool. That's it.
You've got to make wise decisions, and you can't have the luxury of making mistakes. If you make one mistake, the game is over, you go right back to square one. So it's pretty tough. But I like the concept of places like Toronto. You go to the right location, you go to the best locations, and you do things in real estate. Even if it's buying a house and fixing it up and selling it for a profit, and then buying two houses and fixing them both up and selling them. Try and stay away from the banks as much as possible, because the borrowing gets you in trouble. Ultimately, the interest eats you alive. And just work. It takes time. It's not an easy process. I will not be running for president as much as I'd like to.
He flirted for months with the presidency.
While I'm not at this time a candidate for the presidency, I will decide by June whether or not I will become one.
With his skyscraper-high name recognition, Donald Trump quickly rose to the top of the polls for Republican candidates, and he said things the other politicians did not.
I have a reputation for telling it like it is. I'm known for my candor. I've had a lot of great victories.
And I may be willing to put that to work.
But his questions about President Obama's citizenship got the most attention.
I want him to show his birth certificate. I want him to show his birth certificate. There's something on that birth certificate that he doesn't like.
Oh my God. Then Mr. Obama pulled out the ultimate Trump card. He produced his full birth certificate that showed his birthplace of Hawaii. And at the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner, Obama skewered Trump.
He can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter. Like, did we fake the moon landing?
It was that same weekend the birther controversy was wiped from the headlines.
Today, at my direction,
When the president announced the U.S. had killed Osama bin Laden. Now, after that, Trump really started dropping in the polls, but one thing that didn't drop, the ratings for his television show.
You do not want to with me! You look in my eyes, I am the last person in the world you ever want to with! Do you understand me?
The apprentice goes to a galaxy far, far away.
Maybe I should let you do the firing this week.
Two teams battle for supremacy in a billion-dollar enterprise.
Star Wars.
And in the boardroom, things really get hairy.
You're fired.
All New Apprentice, Thursday on NBC.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everybody's saying I should run for president. Let me ask you a question. Meatloaf, should I run for president?
Absolutely.
Now, you would definitely vote for me.
I would vote for you. In
Okay,
fact,
I would think so.
I'll help you with your campaign.
Donald Trump is here tonight. Now, I know that he's taken some flack lately, but no one is happier, no one is prouder to put this birth certificate matter to rest than the Donald. And that's because he can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter. Like, did we fake the moon landing? What really happened in Roswell? And where are Biggie and Tupac? Say what you will about Mr. Trump, he certainly would bring some change to the White House. All kidding aside, obviously we all know about your credentials and breadth of experience. For example, no, seriously, just recently in an episode of Celebrity Apprentice at the steakhouse, the men's cooking team did not impress the judges from Omaha Steaks. And there was a lot of blame to go around, but you, Mr. Trump, recognized that the real problem was a lack of leadership. And so ultimately you didn't blame Little John or Meatloaf. You fired Gary Busey. And these are the kind of decisions that would keep me up at night.
And even tonight, with all of the heated back and forth between my opponent and me at the debate last night, we have proven that we can actually be civil to each other. In fact, just before taking the dais, Hillary accidentally bumped into me, and she very civilly said, "Pardon me." We are eradicating the criminal gangs and cartels that have infiltrated our country. You're reading about them all the time. Some of you have big problems with them. Thank you for that sign. Blacks for Trump. I love that guy. Blacks for Trump. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, man. That's great. That's really cool. I appreciate it.
We have solutions that will pass the House and Senate right now and will not shut down the government, and that's what we're urging you to do. Not threaten to shut down the government, because let me just finish, because you can't get your way.
The last time you shut it down, you got killed.
Let me say something, Mr. President. You just say my way or we'll shut down the government. We have a proposal that Democrats and Republicans will support to do a CR that will not shut down the government. We urge you to take it.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It is very good border security.
And if it's not good border security, I won't take it.
It's what the
Because when you look at these numbers of the effectiveness of our border security, and when you look at the job that we're doing
You
with our
just said
military,
it is effective.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, you just said
without
it's
a wall, these are only areas where you have the walls.
We want to do
where
this.
you have walls, Chuck, it's effective. Where you don't have walls, it is not effective. We thought we'd give you a update on the hurricane. We got lucky in Florida, very, very lucky indeed. We had actually, our original chart was that it was going to be hitting Florida directly. Maybe I could just see that, Kevin. It was going to be hitting directly, and that would have affected a lot of other states. But that was the original chart, and you see it was going to hit not only Florida but Georgia. It could have was going toward the Gulf. That was what was originally projected, and it took a right turn. After consulting with our top government health professionals, I have decided to take several strong but necessary actions to protect the health and well-being of all Americans. To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days. The new rules will go into effect Friday at midnight. These restrictions will be adjusted subject to conditions on the ground. There will be exemptions for Americans who have undergone appropriate screenings. After this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, and we fight. We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. Fight for yourself. And I like my music like I like everything louder than everything else. 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 Everything louder than everything louder than everything else. Everything louder than everything else. Everything louder than
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
Office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr.
Thank
President.
They didn't raid Biden's house. You know what happened? They put him in the house. That's the one with the Corvette where the documents were laying all over the floor. That was fine. And you know who happens to be at Mar-a-Lago? Secret Service, and they're phenomenal. I have Secret Service. He didn't have Secret Service. The other thing, the vice president cannot declassify. He didn't have the right to declassify. He has documents from when he was a senator. And even Democrat senators say, I can't believe it. No.
That's the question that investigators have, I think, is why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
you
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to, you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage.
You guys have access to that chart that I love so much. You don't mind if I go off teleprompter, do you? Because these teleprompters are so damn boring, I try and explain that. Oh, it is? Wow. You guys are doing it. They're getting better with time. My guys, take a look at that chart. Take a look at the arrow on the bottom. See the big red arrow, right? So that's when I left office. That was the lowest point, and that comes right from the government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a look at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country. And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people. And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened. I said I want to do small doses. Anyway, I would love you to do something, and I think it'll be so good for you and so big for you. And we're gonna win. We're way ahead of the guy. And it was interesting. It was very nice actually. He called me, and he said, "How did you choose to move to the right?" So I guess that people say, if I was looking straight up. He said, I said, I was just showing a chart. I didn't have to tell him the chart was on all the people pouring into our country. But I just turned my head to show the chart. And something grabbed me. It felt like a giant, like the world's largest mosquito. And it was a bullet going. What do they call that? An AR-15 or something. That's a big gun. Those are pretty tough guns, right?
They say you can't truly know how you'll respond in a moment of danger until you're actually confronted with it.
Friends, delegates, and fellow Americans, I humbly and gratefully accept your nomination for the presidency of the United States.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say,
I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
How are you?
How are you? I'm doing very well. Now we'll get you to the phone. We'll go right here.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
I don't want to be on that side. No! Get back! Get back! Get on the line! Get on the line! Young man, there's no need to feel down. I said, young man, pick yourself off the ground. I said, young man, 'cause you're in a new town. There's no need.
Jeb Bush has been taking dead aim at Donald Trump because Donald Trump has been firing really at Jeb Bush. The two have been going at it.
One other thing I'll say, because he mentions the fact that I was at one point a Democrat. Well, in New York City, everybody was a Democrat, practically. If you run for city council, if you run for political office, whoever wins the Democrat primary is automatically, there was almost no election because the Republicans hardly exist in New York City. Well, that's where I was. If you look at Ronald Reagan, he was a Democrat. He was actually, Don, he was a Democrat with a very liberal, or at least a pretty liberal bent, and he became a Republican with a somewhat conservative, I wouldn't say very, but he was a conservative Republican.
But Mr. Trump, that's the first time I've ever heard of you, call yourself a politician, refer to yourself as a politician. And did you ever consider yourself
I hate to do it, but I guess when you're running for office, I hate the term politician as it relates to myself. I've never been. I've only been a politician for 3 months, but I guess that's what I am right now.
Well, were you a Democrat at that point?
It's not going to be politics as usual.
Were you a Democrat at that point when you said that?
Well, at one point I was a Democrat, and for a period of time, and over the years, as Ronald Reagan changed, I also changed. I became much more conservative. I also became a Republican.
Would you like to be the President of the United States?
I really don't believe I would, Rona, but I would like to see somebody as the president who could do the job, and there are very capable people in this country.
Most people who are capable are not running for office. Most men are frightened of politics today.
It is a shame, isn't it?
Yes.
It is a shame. The most capable people are not necessarily running for political office, and that is a very sad commentary in the country. They had major corporations and they had this and that, but they are not running for political office.
Yes, scary Donald Trump. Worse than Hitler, they call him. An ogre, a monster, a fascist, a white supremacist, a racist, except, of course, he isn't.
Why wouldn't someone like yourself run for political office? You have all the money that you possibly need. You've accomplished a great deal, even though you are only 34. I know there's a lot of things that you possibly can do in the years ahead. Why wouldn't you dedicate yourself to public service?
Because I think it's a very mean life. I would love and I would dedicate my life to this country, but I see it as being a mean life, and I also see it as somebody with strong views and somebody with the kind of views that are maybe a little bit unpopular, which may be right, but may be unpopular, wouldn't necessarily have a chance of getting elected against somebody with no great brain but a big smile. And that's a sad commentary for the political process.
No great brain but a big smile. How on earth? Way back in 1980, did young Donald Trump know he'd be running against this man? Talk about being prescient.
A great gifted clairvoyance.
Now, welcome the next Vice President of the United States, Tim Walz.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, for the trust you put in me, but maybe more so, thank you for bringing back the joy. Minnesota's strength comes from our values, our commitment to working together, to seeing past our differences, to always being willing to lend a helping hand. Donald Trump sees the world a little differently than us. First of all, he doesn't know the first thing about service. He doesn't have time for it because he's too busy serving himself. He mocks our laws. He sows chaos and division. He froze in the face of the COVID crisis. And make no mistake, violent crime was up under Donald Trump. That's not even counting the crimes he committed. In Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and their personal choices that they make. Even if we wouldn't make the same choice for ourselves, there's a golden rule. Mind your own damn business. And don't believe him when he plays dumb. He knows exactly what Project 2025 will do to restrict our freedoms. J.D. Vance literally wrote the foreword for the architect of the Project 2025 agenda. Like all regular people I grew up with in the heartland, J.D. studied at Yale, had his career funded by Silicon Valley billionaires, and then wrote a bestseller trashing that community. Come on! That's not what middle America is. And I gotta tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy. That is, if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. So, I gotta tell you, pointing out just an observation of mine that I made. I just have to say it. You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy and yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see. She believes in the promise of America. We just gotta fight. We just gotta fight. Because as soon-to-be President Harris says, when we fight, we win!
Well, who gets your vote on the Democratic side?
Well, they all get my vote on the Democratic side. On the Republican side, my pick is George Bush. I think he'll be the nominee.
Senator Joe Biden, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Start off, obvious question. Why did you put your letter in the paper?
I'm a
proud American, and I'm tired of seeing this country get ripped off by every nation practically in the world. When I look at Japan as an example, and I love the Japanese people, I do a lot of business with the Japanese people, but they've taken advantage of the United States. We're defending Japan. Japan right now is far and away the wealthiest country in the world. We're defending Japan, and it doesn't make sense. We're bringing ships through the Persian Gulf. We're paying for it. The oil is going to Japan. They get 60 to 70% of their oil from Japan. We get 4 to 5%. We really don't need it. Why isn't Japan contributing? Why isn't Saudi Arabia? Why isn't Kuwait contributing big, big, big money toward their defense? It doesn't make sense.
On the same subject, what about the idea that as a superpower we have obligations to protect freedom of navigation?
I'm gonna tell on you. Tell all the people what you do. Yes, I'm gonna tell on the whole round world just exactly what it is that you do. Yes, you do. I've got to tell how you inspect everything I like, how you reject. With your law books on the shelf, you protect me from myself, and that's exactly how it is. Thank you much.
No one ever said it was easy to get to become the leader of the free world.
Tell me, make it last. Sit down and sip your beer and be thankful you live here. Yeah, love it or leave it. That's just exactly what he said. Yes, he did. I'm gonna tell on you. I love it, man. Tell all the people what you do. 'Cause I'm gonna tell on the whole round world just exactly what it is that you do. Take away everything I smoke. You say it's bad, it'll make me cough and choke. It's cancerous. You're bound to die. It's dangerous. I gotta say. Just exactly what he said. Yes, he did. So I'm gonna tell on you. Tell all the people what you do. I'm gonna tell on the whole round world just exactly what it is that you do. I hope he said the pill's no good. Only do it when you think you should.
But we're overpopulated.
And a longer skirt is needed. Yes, and that's just exactly what he said. Yes, he said. I'm gonna tell on you. Tell all the people what you do. I'm gonna tell on the whole round world just exactly what it is that you do.
What has violence ever accomplished? What has it ever created? No martyr's cause has ever been stilled by an assassin's bullet. No wrongs have ever been righted by riots and civil disorders. A sniper is only a coward, not a hero, and an uncontrolled or uncontrollable mob is only the voice of madness, not the voice of the people.
You are on the path of politicians. Well, I've got a long time to think about it, Joe. You have a family of political know-how, but have you committed yourself to the political future? I don't think so. I think I'll probably do some form of public service. I think everybody in my family really feels that a lot of my father's goals and ideals are worth pursuing. But I wouldn't necessarily restrict myself to politics. We can't all go into politics.
Everybody ultimately lives in a neighborhood, in a community, or in an ecosystem that, in this point in history, is probably deteriorating. And on a street-by-street, house-by-house, mountain-by-mountain, river-by-river basis, we have to start taking control of our own lives and saying, we are not going to let this happen.
Among free men, said Abraham Lincoln, there can be no successful appeal from the ballot to the bullet. And those who take such appeal are sure to lose their case and pay the cost. Violence breeds violence. Repression breeds retaliation. And only a cleansing of our whole society can remove this sickness from our souls.
And this is a tribute in honor of Bobby. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts. And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. And they will also conduct a rigorous review of the attack last month. But I tell you, I have never had more people ask me, please, sir, release the documents on the Kennedy assassination. And we're going to do that.
Today, at the height of Western culture, we face a new trial by fire. On the domestic front, the fight against the woke virus.
The Fox News Decision Desk can now officially project that Donald Trump will become the 47th President of the United States.
Unelected deep state operatives who defy the voters to push their own secret agendas are truly a threat to democracy.
We're not indestructible. Baby, better get that straight. I think it's unbelievable how you're given to the hands of fate. There's something's all worth fighting for. Some feelings never die. I'm not asking for another chance. I just wanna know why. There's no easy way out. There's no shortcut home. There's no easy way out. Giving in can be wrong. I don't wanna pacify. I don't wanna drag you down. But I'm feeling like a prisoner, like a stranger in a no-name town. I see all the angry faces, afraid that could be you and me.
When I did Rocky, if you remember, the first image was the picture of Jesus. It says Resurrection AC Club. I found a church that had been converted to a boxing ring. So the image pans down from Jesus onto Rocky being hit. And at that moment, he was a chosen person, and that's how I began the journey. Something was going to happen. This man was going to go through a metamorphosis and change lives, just like President Trump. We are in the presence of a really mythical character. I love mythology. And this individual does not exist on this planet. Nobody in the world could have pulled off what he pulled off, so I'm in awe. And I'll just say this, and I mean it. When George Washington defended his country, he had no idea that he was going to change the world. Because without him, you can imagine what the world would look like. Guess what? We got the second George Washington. Congratulations!
I just wanna know why. There's no easy way out. There's no short
officials have a strong commitment to the people of New York City. And the commitment goes, I think, far beyond what many people would consider. And one of those things is the fact that the garden officials really do not want to raise their ticket prices. I'm sure they could. I'm sure the public would be willing to pay. But the officials really do not, at this time, even contemplate a raise in the ticket prices, raising the ticket prices.
The inauguration has been planned for months, but now it's moving indoors thanks to brutally cold weather. Nicole Skanga shares how the big event is pivoting.
The stage had been set outside of the Capitol for the swearing-in of President-elect Donald Trump, but the chairs will be moved indoors for a ceremony in the Capitol Rotunda Monday.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. And you know, tonight I'm going to be signing on the J6 hostages' pardons to get them out. And as soon as I leave, I'm going to the Oval Office and we'll be signing pardons for a lot of people. Thank you. I mean, the only thing wrong with it is I had a lot of tough things to say, and I have some great people that work for me. Sir, this is such a great speech. It's so unifying. Don't talk about Biden with his pardons of his family. We want a unified country. They said, don't talk about the J6 hostages that you're going to be releasing today. Sir, don't put that in your speech, please. I said, but I want to put it in my speech. I said, sir, it won't be unified like it is. It's so beautiful the way it is. And it is getting great reviews. You know, if I put things like that in, I'll get terrible reviews. One little paragraph that's a little bit wrong, the fake news goes crazy, right? So I said, all right, I won't put it in my speech, but you know what? I'm speaking in front of a hell of a lot of people at a place called Capital One Arena, and I'll talk about it there. So we're going to be going over the beautiful Oval Office, one of the great offices in history. Even if it wasn't beautiful, it's the Oval Office, but it is beautiful. And we love the Oval Office. It all starts with the wars start and end there. Everything starts and ends at the Oval Office. We love it. But we're going to go to the Oval Office. We're going to release our great hostages that didn't do, for the most part, they didn't do stuff wrong. You take a look at what went on, and look what happens in other parts of the country. In Portland, where they kill people, they destroy the city, nothing happens to them. In Seattle, where they took over a big chunk of the city, nothing happened. Minneapolis, where they burned down the city, nothing happened. Essentially nothing happened. So what would you like us to do?
Sign your orders.
Official documents.
Okay, I assume they're going to be happy with these documents?
Yeah, they're just...
This is a great job. There's no job like this. This is the most important job in the world. Just as I did in my first term, we had a great first term, a great first term. I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises. Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people. We will make America safe, strong, prosperous, powerful, and free again. And I'm asking every citizen all across our land to join me in this noble and righteous endeavor. That's what it is. It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite. And we're going to try, we have to try, and it's going to happen. Success will bring us together. I've seen that. I saw that in the first term when we became more and more successful. People started coming together. Success is going to bring us together, and we are going to start by all putting America first. We have to put our country first for at least a period of time. We have to fix it. Because together we can truly make America great again for all Americans. So I want to just tell you what a great honor this is. I want to thank you. I will not let you down. America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than it has ever been before. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's fun to stay at the YMCA. Fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for your men to enjoy. You can hang out with all the boys. Fun to stay at the YMCA. Fun to stay at the YMCA. You can get yourself clean. Have a good meal. Do whatever. To feel down, I said, young man, pick yourself off the ground. I said, young man, cause you're in a new town. There's no need to be unhappy, young man. There's a place you can go. I said, young man, when you're short on your dough, you can stay there. And I'm sure you will find many ways to have a good time.
Wow. Folks, came to thank you.
American girls, American guys will always stand up and salute and always recognize when we see old glory flying. There's a lot of men dead, so we can sleep in peace at night when we lay down our head. My daddy served in the army. We lost his right eye and he flew our flag out in our yard. Till the day that he died, he wanted my mother, my brother, my sister and me to grow up and live forever in the land of the free. This nation and love is falling under attack. A mighty sucker punch came flying in from somewhere in the back. As soon as we could see clearly through our big black eye, man, we lit up your world like a 4th of July. Hell, stand, put your name on top of his list. The Statue of Liberty started singing her miss. People will fly, it's gonna be hell. Then you and more freedom start ringing that bell. It'll feel like the whole wide world raining down on you. Brought to you courtesy of the red, white, and blue. They're here tonight, right out there. Oh, and justice will be served. Battle will rage. Good guys win every time you rattle their cage. Man, you'll be sorry you mess with my U.S. of A. We'll put a boot